Something my husband said at lunch accidentally blew up our entire friend group, and it started with a secret that was never his to tell. I need to tell you about the kind of friendship group we were before I tell you what happened to it, because if I start with the falling apart you will assume we were always fragile. We were not fragile. We were the kind of close that takes years to build and that you stop noticing after a while. The way you stop noticing good health, it just becomes the condition of your life and you forget to be grateful for it until it is gone. There were 6 of us. Myself, my husband Daniel, our friends Kwame and his wife Priya, and a couple we had known the longest, Sola and her husband Tund. We had met in various combinations over the years and had coalesced into a group gradually, the way adult friendships do, through proximity and shared dinners and a kind of repeated exposure that slowly becomes genuine affection. By the time this story takes place we had been a consistent 6 for about 7 years. Holidays together. A standing monthly dinner that had survived job changes and a pandemic and 2 relocations and 3 babies between us. A group chat, simply named the 6, with no irony intended, that had accumulated 4 years of daily conversation ranging from news articles to restaurant recommendations to the specific kind of humor that only exists inside a friendship that has earned it. We were good. I want you to understand that we were genuinely, substantively good. The crack appeared in January. Sola and Tund had been having a difficult year. Not catastrophically, nothing singular had happened, but the kind of difficult that accumulates when 2 people are both under pressure simultaneously and neither has enough left over to properly support the other. Tund had taken on a demanding new role at work. Sola had been dealing with her mother's health, which required regular trips to another city and the particular toll of managing someone else's crisis from a distance. They were stretched. It showed in small ways, Tund quieter than usual at dinners, Sola sometimes on her phone in a distracted way she would have noticed and corrected in a less depleted version of herself. The rest of us noticed and said nothing directly because they had not said anything directly and we were respecting what we assumed was a preference for privacy. What none of us knew was that Kwame knew more than we did. Kwame and Tund had been friends longer than any of the rest of us, since university, 15 years, the kind of foundation that exists underneath a group friendship the way bedrock exists under soil. Tund had been talking to Kwame privately. Not about anything I would characterize as alarming, not infidelity, not anything dramatic, but about the state of his marriage and the honest, unguarded way you talk to someone who knew you before you became who you are. He had said things that were personal and vulnerable and that he had shared in the specific confidence of a long friendship. Priya found out because Kwame told her. This is important. He did not hide it from his wife. He told her because they did not keep things from each other and because he trusted her the way you trust the person you share your life with. He told her Tund was struggling. He told her some of what Tund had said. He asked her to be gentle with Sola if she noticed anything. What Kwame did not anticipate, and what I do not think he has entirely forgiven himself for, was what Priya did with it. Priya told me. Not maliciously. This is the thing I have had to keep reminding myself of throughout everything that followed. She told me because she was worried about Sola and because she thought I was close enough to Sola to know how to help and because the information had been sitting in her since Kwame had shared it and she needed somewhere to put it. She called me on a Wednesday afternoon and told me, in confidence, some of what Tund had shared with Kwame. She asked me not to tell anyone. She said she just thought I should know so I could keep an eye on Sola. I should have stopped her. I know that now. The moment I understood what she was sharing I should have said I did not want to receive information that Tund had shared privately with Kwame because it was not mine to have. I did not do that. I listened. I said I would keep an eye on Sola. I thanked her for telling me. I got off the phone and sat with the information in the uncomfortable way you sit with something that feels both important and slightly wrong to possess. I told Daniel that evening. I told him because we do not keep things from each other and because I needed to process it out loud with someone. I asked him not to share it further. He said of course. I want to be very precise about what happened next because the sequence matters. Daniel had lunch with Kwame the following week. A regular thing, they did it monthly, nothing unusual. At some point during that lunch, and Daniel has told me this directly and I believe him, Kwame said something general about being worried about Tund and Daniel, not thinking, responded in a way that indicated he knew more than Kwame had told him. Kwame asked how Daniel knew. Daniel realized what he had done and tried to walk it back but the damage was already in the room. Kwame understood immediately that Priya had told me and that I had told Daniel. He did not say much for the rest of the lunch. He called Priya when he got home. I do not know exactly what that conversation sounded like. What I know is that Priya called me that evening sounding different from how she usually sounds, tight in a way that was trying not to be and told me that Kwame was upset and that she was upset and that she felt she had made a mistake telling me and that she wished she had kept it between them. I said I understood and that I was sorry and that I should not have told Daniel. She said it was fine. It was not fine. The group chat went quiet in a way that had never happened before. Not silent, messages still came through, links and memes and the ordinary texture of it, but quieter. The long threads that used to run for hours started stopping after 3 or 4 exchanges. The monthly dinner in February was suggested and then quietly not confirmed, and then the date passed without anyone rescheduling. I noticed. I knew Daniel noticed. I did not know if Sola and Tund had been told any of it or whether they were simply feeling the weather change without understanding why. Then Sola called me on a Sunday afternoon. She asked if something was going on in the group. She said she and Tund had both felt something shift and could not identify the source, and that it was making her anxious on top of everything else she was already carrying. She said she knew things had been hard and that she had probably been less present than she should have been, and that she was worried she had done something without knowing it. I sat on the phone with my friend who was already exhausted and already stretched, and I thought about the chain of events that had started with Tund confiding in Kwame and had ended with a group chat that felt like a held breath. I told her the truth. Not all of it. I did not share the specifics of what Tund had said because those were not mine to share and had already traveled too far, but I told her that some information had moved through the group in a way it should not have, and that the tension she was feeling was real and that it was not her fault. She was quiet for a long time. Then she asked if Tund knew. I said I did not think so. She said she needed to talk to him. I said I thought that was right. The next 2 weeks were the most uncomfortable of our 7 years as a group. Tund found out that something he had shared with Kwame had traveled to Priya and then to me and then to Daniel. He was hurt in a way that was quiet and therefore worse than if it had been loud. He did not confront anyone. He went still in the way people go still when they are deciding whether something is survivable. Kwame felt responsible in the specific way you feel responsible when your intentions were good and the outcome was not. Priya felt guilty. Daniel felt guilty. I felt guilty. Sola was managing all of it while also managing everything she had already been managing. We had a dinner in March. Not the easy, automatic dinner of 7 years of habit. A deliberate dinner, arranged specifically because Kwame had called me and said he thought we needed to be in a room together, and I had agreed. We sat around Sola and Tund's table, and for the first 40 minutes we talked around the edges of it in the way that people do when something needs to be said and no one wants to be the one to begin. Kwame began. He said he had made a mistake. He said he had shared something that was not his to share and that it had moved in directions he had not intended, and that he was sorry to Tund specifically and to the group generally. He said it directly and without qualification and without making it smaller than it was. Tund listened and did not say anything immediately. Then he said he understood why Kwame had told Priya and that he was not angry at the intention, only at the outcome, and that he needed some time to sit with it, but that he did not want to lose what they had over it. Priya apologized to me for putting me in a position she should not have put me in. I apologized to her and to Kwame for telling Daniel. Daniel apologized to Kwame for the lunch. Sola sat at the head of her own table and looked at all of us with an expression I have never quite been able to describe, not angry, not sad exactly, something more like the face of a person who loves a group of people and is tired of watching them be careful with each other. She said, "Can we please just agree that we all made it worse and move on?" Nobody laughed immediately. And then Kwame laughed first, the way he always does, and then everyone else followed, and it was not the easy laughter of a group that had never been tested. It was something different. Something that knew what it had almost lost. That was 14 months ago. The sick still exists. The group chat still runs. The monthly dinners came back in April and have not lapsed since. Tund and Kwame are still the bedrock underneath all of it. I have watched them at dinners and the 15 years between them is intact in the way it always was, maybe slightly more deliberately tended than before. What changed is harder to describe. Not the friendship itself but the way we hold it. There is something more careful in how we talk about each other to each other now. Not guarded, careful. The difference being that guarded comes from distrust and careful comes from having learned the specific weight that information carries when it moves through a group of people who all love each other and are all capable of meaning well and still getting it wrong. I think about the chain of it sometimes. Tund to Kwame. Kwame to Priya. Priya to me. Me to Daniel. Daniel to Kwame without meaning to. Each link forged by love or trust or the simple human need to put something heavy down somewhere. None of it malicious. All of it consequential. My therapist asked me once what I would do differently. I said I would have stopped Priya the moment I understood what she was sharing. She asked me if I believed that. I sat with it honestly and said I was not entirely sure. That in the moment the information had felt like something I was supposed to have. Like being trusted with it was an act of care rather than a breach in progress. She said that was the thing about information inside a close group, it almost always arrives dressed as intimacy. The work is learning to tell the difference between someone sharing something with you and someone offloading something onto you. They feel identical in the moment. The consequences are not. I think she is right. I am still learning to tell the difference. I do not have a verdict to ask for. I think we were all, at various points, both wrong and understandable, and I have made peace with the fact that those two things can coexist. I just needed to put it somewhere it could exist outside of me. If you have ever watched something move through a friendship group in a way nobody intended and come out the other side still intact, I would genuinely like to hear how you held it together.